All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming to the session. And thank you to Kelly, Justin, and Kathryn for showing up as well. Huge round of applause for our fireside chatter.
Thank you.
So today's session is today's session is about the ChangeMaker Playbook, top takeaways for marketing success. So we have a beautiful group at Passle called the ChangeMakers. So new CMOs, CMBDOs, and legal join the group for basically their first 3 years, and we really want to get them geared up and set up with all of the tools that they need for success. And most of the time, these people are actually coming in with a lot of success already, which is great. I'm going to go down a line here. So Kelly is at a Gibson Dunn, Justin is at Duane Morris, and Kathryn was at Hogan Lovells, former CMO, CMBDO, CMBDO. So we've got a beautiful panel of beautiful people with excellent experience. So I can kick us off with letting you guys introduce yourselves.
Okay.
So Kelly, you go.
Oh, man, I picked the wrong seat. You said, which seat did you feel? I did not know that I was going to start. So, Kelly MacKinnon, I am the Chief Marketing and Business Development Officer at Gibson Dunn. I am nearing my 3rd year anniversary at the firm and officially became the sole Chief Marketing and Business Development Officer in January 1.
Justin Edmondson, Chief Marketing and Business Development Officer at Duane Morris, took on the position January of this year. Had previously, been with the firm for going on 3 years now, so we have a lot of parallels. And I do need to give a little bit of background on how I know K-Mac so well. So we actually met 19 years ago. We both worked together at Deloitte for a short time span, and she left and whether you want to say you went to the dark side? Or
I did. Went to the dark side.
Okay.
I went to legal, yeah.
And she's the one who actually recruited me into legal marketing, so I do owe her a lot.
My check's in the mail, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm Kathryn Tschumper. I was at Hogan Lovells for 3 years, the former CMO, and I recently repatriated to the US after 16 years, so just enjoying being back and on this great panel and really getting back into this community.
Brilliant. Thank you guys for your introductions. This is going to be mostly them talking and me peppering them with questions and grilling Kelly just because it's fun watching her sweat on stage. But these 3 individuals here on stage have a lot of unique experience, mostly because they actually came from within the firms, right? And I'm sure coming into this role, you learn a lot of things, you see a lot of things you didn't see before, and you thought, oh my gosh, what was that? Who did that before? Was it somebody else? So I think today what we're really going to talk about is key learnings, of course, from those first few years, takeaways, fun things, successes, maybe things that you wish you had learned earlier. But we can start with how you guys actually shifted into senior leadership. I think that's really challenging to be able to kind of move away from, oh, okay, we're doing this, to I'm a chief. So maybe Kathryn, we'll start with you and then work back because we did that to Kelly before. Thank you.
I was thinking about this. I love the term stepping up because to me it's more like you're on a rocket ship and overnight you're launched into this role and really trying to figure it out. And for me, it was really having that front row seat finally and seeing how the big picture was. So looking at it from above. And our role really now as CMO is really becoming more the strategic advisor and being part of that group. And so I was one of 4 C-suites that was advising the CEO and his leadership team and was attending a weekly International Management Committee meeting. And so you really got to have that insight and see how all the pieces fit together. And I thought that was fascinating. So at the same time, you're also trying to develop your people. So the biggest thing was really playing that part, so being that strategic advisor that the CEO wants, but at the same time also being there for your team. And it's exciting and really good, but it's everything coming over at night. So,
Totally agree with the rocket ship. For me, certainly having 2.5 years experience, learning the firm, the people, the processes, the systems were super helpful for me because my former role was to stand up their key client program, their client feedback initiative. So I was the one that would ask the lawyers the uncomfortable questions. Who do you know? How are you bringing in business? I kind of cared less whether it was a personal or professional relationship, but I needed to know to figure out how we can augment essentially activities in that regard. So I was really quickly able to establish trust and relationships with a lot of individuals, and it also afforded me opportunities to kind of be in those rooms, those private conversations with management committee members, practice, office management, and the like, which for me allowed me to kind of hit the ground running when I started, and that the transition actually was far easier than I thought it was going to be because I had some of those relationships. So they were fully supportive because they knew who I was and they knew what I was bringing to the table. So all the change that we had discussed when I had joined, I now knew what the roadmap was, and now I could just enact it versus trying to figure out, where the skeletons are in the closet. I already knew that information, so to speak.
Mine was an adventure. I spoke on a CMO panel last year, and a woman, Anna Padavani, who I sat next to at Paul Weiss, we were on the panel together, and she's like, Kelly knew she wanted to be a CMO, like her first year. She was like this little baby analyst, and she said to me, with these little windows, and she went, I want to be a CMO when I grow up. And she reminded me of that. So as I kind of progressed in my career, I really wanted to be a CMO. And I was interviewing for CMO spots. There was a position at a firm I was at that I was in the running. I did not get the role. I did not expect to go to Gibson Dunn to be their chief marketing and business development officer. Your first rodeo, you usually don't want to walk in and say, oh, hi, you're leading a team for 1,800 lawyers is your first time in the first chair. It was complete happenstance, and I happened to be at the right place at the right time. There's a lot of hard work that went behind that in really trying to, and I'll probably talk about just the transformation that we're doing at GDC, but it was exciting. It was really, I was so thrilled to have the opportunity to be at a place like Gibson Dunn where the brand is just second to none, at least in the US. We're working on it outside, and really have the opportunity to lead that transformation. Again, just to ask, we're going to be a little bit vulnerable up here, so please don't attribute a lot of this stuff to us, but it's been really hard too. There's been a lot of change. It's also, like I said, I stepped into the role because of a leadership change that happened at the firm. It was kind of sneaky squirrel done in quiet before it was announced to the team and the partners. So it was awesome and cool and a little bit funky at times. And now looking back, and I'll get to the adventure I took, first being a co and now being a sole. It's been fun, weird, and I just kind of roll with the punches.
That's how I like to do things too, shooting from the hip. No, that's brilliant. You guys are very cool, and you all have unique, different experiences and all kind of come from different backgrounds and levels in your careers, which is really interesting. Something I really like to ask people is when you come into a role like this, you kind of come in, and Kelly, you touched on this, right? You were like, I want to be a CMO one day, right, when you're an analyst. When you got the gig, right, and Justin, I'll start with you, and then we'll go to Kelly, and then we'll go to Kathryn. What was like the vision you saw? What were you like, I'm going to do this big thing? So we'll start with you, Justin.
I had 3 goals. The first was to be a change agent because I heard so much about how many things needed to be changed. So there was the dilemma of, well, do you keep the status quo or do you really affect change? Because you know how change management and how difficult it is for people, but that was my first goal, was be a disruptor, be a change agent. The second goal was to modernize processes and systems and to kind of begin that journey. The third goal was people-oriented and to really establish a culture of decency, empathy, and respect amongst the team, and how we show up not only for each other, but how do we show up to support our lawyers, other admin functions, and the like, because those relationships in certain cases weren't as great and they weren't as productive as they can and should be. So those were kind of the high-level goals.
Mine was world domination.
It still is.
It still is. I actually, and it's a takeaway that I want people who are looking at opportunities within their own firm to really hear. When I was having conversations about changes, again, in leadership last year, I think it was the COO came to me and he's like, Kelly, we just don't know what your vision is. And I was like, you're killing me right now, Josh, because I had done a lot of the work on a lot of the different strategic documents that had been done, but nobody had really attached that vision to myself. So I put together a 5 pages, because I was reviewing it last night, kind of a manifesto in terms of what did I want to change at Gibson Dunn. Now, Gibson Dunn, and again, the COO has been pretty public about this. It is a fantastic firm. We have some of the smartest, most commercial lawyers in the world. They are not known for marketing and business development. You did not go to Gibson Dunn to do marketing and business development. So it really has been a journey, and again, that world domination of how do I plan that out. So I did 3 pillars, like threes. It's always in threes, right? First was operational excellence, and how do we get the team and our processes and our systems up to where they should be. The second is revenue generation, and this is whenever I give a presentation, I don't want our team or our lawyers thinking that at the end of the day, this is a business and we need to make money. We are judged on how much money we make with the PPEP and gross revenue. Right. And then the third really is the profile elevation. So I laid this all out, and when I put this together, I didn't hold back. I shot for the moon. I did blue sky. There was AI in there. Then we're talking, this is last October, November, so AI really hadn't blown up. I mean, it was, but us in big law firm where that tanker moves a little bit slower, it hadn't gotten there yet. And I laid this all out. So again, it was fun last night, 5 months into really being the sole CMO, it was fun to look at all the things that we'd achieved. So that vision still is very much what is driving me forward every day.
So when I stepped into the role, I wanted to look at where did Hogan Lovells want to be in the next 5 years. So what was really driving the market, what did the future look like, and how did the team need to be organized around it. I followed in some fantastic footsteps. So the team was left in excellent shape. There was award-winning programs already in place. So it wasn't necessarily about changing it, but more about future-proofing it and seeing what did we need to do to stay relevant and stay at the top. I also had a very large team. So I was coming from a very small region and then was taking on a team of 245 people. And so I was an unknown to them. So part of my thing was really making sure, number one, I had my leadership team around me. So one of the first things I did was get them into the room and talk about what is our vision, what is our strategy, and what do we want to be. I had some very senior people there who just wanted to know that they were going to make an impact and be useful. What could they do to do things? And so having their buy-in and really helping me create this vision and strategy really gave us a core team that could then help to implement that across the group. Another thing I did that I was an unknown was I did a lot of one-on-one conversations with the manager levels and up. So I ended up speaking to over 100 people on the team. And that really helped to let them know who I was. And so when I did come over to the US, I was not this unknown person, but I'd been having these conversations, and I got to learn about the team, the insight into their strengths, but also where they wanted to go and what was important. And that was able to be then incorporated into the vision and the strategy.
I'm going to ask a question off the beaten track, which is something we've talked about, which seems to be a recurring theme, is getting buy-in, right? Understanding people, learning who your allies are. And Kathryn, you mentioned talking to over 100 people at a gargantuan firm like Hogan, right? And going kind of down the line. I'd love to hear from all of you. What kinds of questions were you actually asking in order to get buy-in from these people? Whether it's the people under you, whether it's from senior leadership. Besides saying, where are we looking for strategy and growth? How are you actually going, let me learn a little bit about you?
So in the team, I was asking them, what would you change? What do you envision? What do you see? And there was some fantastic ideas. I did some focus groups with the more junior level of the team. So I could really see from the bottom up what was their insight. They're driving a lot of things, and I didn't want to just rely on the leadership team for it. I also mapped it out with the CEO on who were my important partner stakeholders. So I had about 50 partners in Asia and had another 750 to meet around the globe. And
No big deal.
So he gave me a short list of 100, and he really wanted me to meet them in person. So I had to take advantage of some conferences that we were having, and so I mapped out who was going to be there. I would make sure I would have some time with them to speak with them. And that was really great in learning about the insight from the partner's strategy, their clients, and really getting to know the rest of the firm's business and what it needs to do. So approached it kind of as a journalist and was just really curious whether it was a person's role or if it was a partner, and wanted to hear from them what were their pain points or what did they want to achieve, and get a better idea of then how we needed to arrange the team to help them. And so that ended up being that we created some new roles and did some pivots, but really had the strong foundation to build upon.
Which is interesting, and I did a similar listening tour, certainly less number of individuals, but I found it super important, and I actually approached it similar to the client feedback interviews that I would do, because I really wanted to understand, well, what are the personal and professional motivations? Yes, you're a trial lawyer in New York, I get that, but what really motivates you? Are you a senior associate that's a year or two away from making partner? Are you a junior partner who's trying to exponentially grow your book of business, who's trying to get to the root of what's going to personally motivate them to figure out, well, then how are they plugging in to their practices or the industry sectors in which they're a part of, and kind of distill all of that information so that when I'm then looking to develop my kind of broader strategy and vision, I can understand, well, who's going to be additive to that goal? Who's kind of a true believer already in terms of supportive of our marketing efforts, and who's not? And it really allowed me to not only further develop relationships, but also then to be able to be more nimble and agile when I wanted to roll out campaigns and other efforts.
For me, I was fortunate. I was mostly on the transactional side before I became a sole. I'd worked with so many of the partners, and I go back to where Gibson Dunn's marketing function was. We had been able to get some big wins. I mean, we switched from a regional model to a practice-based model. So the first time I had a call with our investment funds group and I knew what a closed-end fund was, it was like, oh, you do? Like, you actually understand that? And I had been able to do some quick wins. So some of the partner buy-in I could get, because they just worked with me before and they'd seen some of the change that I had driven. And it was still tough because they had never truly had a sophisticated marketing and business development department. So constant communication. For those of you guys who know me, I'm a woo person. I'm a huge cheerleader. I have these little pom-poms that sit right here and they get broken out when I get really excited about something. That is how I lead. That's how I was able to drive so much change. So it really was sitting with partners. I love the office. I know that's a little bit strange for a lot of people. I'm in usually 4 or 5 days a week, and I try to go visit offices. So the partners saw me, and they got to hear it firsthand. The team was different. I have been hiring and hiring and hiring. So when I walked into Gibson almost 3 years ago, our full team was maybe about 40 people. Once we are done filling all our spots now, we'll be 102. So I have hired most of the team, or I have interviewed most of the team, and I interview almost every single person. A big piece of it is I'm going to trust that by the time they get to me, we are done and dusted, that we are going to hire this person. What I want to make sure that I have buy-in from them is they're excited to come to Gibson. They understand that this is an amazing place to be and what we're building, but they also know that this is going to be a lot of work. And the partnership really is truly excited and sees the vision of what we're doing. And so that buy-in has been a little bit different because I don't want anybody to walk in and be like, oh, okay, we still are like, in the beginning, it was like moving little pictures on PowerPoints that literally like 1980s called and want their PowerPoints back. It was so bad, and I didn't want people to walk in and be like, oh my goodness, what did I walk into? Is really making sure that I have that buy-in from the interview stage, and then making sure too, I went and visited in the early stages in person within their first month at the firm. I was at the office to make sure that I took them out for a meal, had time with them one-on-one to continue that woo.
I want whatever you're drinking. I don't
It's
know.
a lot of cold brew.
It's cold brew.
It's cold brew.
It's not a Celsius, because I was like, I don't get that. I want Kelly MacKinnon boot camp. Okay, so this is really cool. And it kind of feeds into, it sounds like cold brew is your motivator. But actually, in line with all of this growth and understanding and learning comes for you guys personally, what's actually motivating you? It doesn't have to necessarily be work related, but I actually do want to hear, you're a cheerleader at heart. It's one of the things I really like about you. But how do you keep that up? There's no way you wake up every day and you're like, yeah, woo! right? Right?
Yes, for her.
I do have my down days.
You're like, yay.
Yay! At least you fake it till you make it. Julie said it earlier, and she's like, sometimes I fake it, and I'm like, hi, how can I help? How can I help? For me, it's the opportunity, and Justin talked about being a change agent, and to get the opportunity to be at a firm like Gibson Dunn and build something that is epic. You guys are going to hear from Meredith Williams-Range, who is our Chief Legal Operations Officer, later today, and we have a whole entire, in essence, really a whole entire new C-suite that was given the challenge of we're not catching up to the competition. We're leapfrogging. Sorry, everybody. It's the opportunity to be at a firm, and I laugh, and as I recruit, I'm like, welcome to the empire. It's really, it's the opportunity to build a best-in-class team, and the fact that I work for amazing partners. I always, when I tell people about our partnership, this is my 5th big law firm that I've been at, and I always, the line is, our partners are the best in class in what they do. They're super commercial, and as good as lawyers as they are, they're even better human beings. And when people get there, they're like, oh my God, you weren't lying. I was like, no, I promise I wasn't lying. And to do it for them too, because to see the opportunity, and again, Julie mentioned she had a partner win because the client said, I'm gonna choose a brand, I'm gonna choose Axum. And he was like, yes, they chose us because of brand. And watching a partner do that and know that you had a hand in building the team, the processes, that's kind of neat and cool. So that is, I don't always wake up with the woos. Sometimes I need to go to CrossFit and throw some heavy things and get a couple cold brews in, but that is what keeps me moving forward, even when there are tough days.
You're a hard act to follow.
I'm sorry.
All good, all good. It's really the opportunity to make a difference. I don't see many people who look like me in this industry, and I'm not ladder climbing just the ladder climbing. I'm trying to promote and be a symbol not only for people who look like me, but also people who followed this path. Because we all know there isn't an undergraduate legal marketing major. Maybe one day there will be, but everyone kind of falls into it, hears about it from great friends, like to my right. And there needs to be a more direct path, because we all have a lot to give, and we all have great ideas, but we don't always have that platform. So being able to affect change on a greater scale was certainly something that I found interesting. I have a lot of friends who work currently in consumer marketing. One of my cousins, well, I won't name the company, but they would say how they could change the color of a candy wrapper or their product and know within 3 days how much that's impacted sales. And I said, that's great, but that's easy. How about you come to my office and work with these 5 partners and see how well that goes? And I've always just found our industry interesting because we're selling intellectual property. We're selling and marketing, promoting trust. It's very esoteric, but I just find it very interesting. And you can call me a nerd, but it was just something that I've always found interesting. So I get up, and although I don't have the cold brew, it's just something that I look forward to doing every day.
For me, I love building things and putting things together and having that full picture. So I think finally getting at this role where you have the full picture and you're driving the strategy, to me, was just fascinating. In my career, I haven't planned it. I've just always said yes to opportunities, and it took me to the Middle East, and then took me to Hong Kong, and it now brought me back to DC. And it wasn't strategically that I thought I was going to live in those places. So I think when this role came up, I thought, okay, I'll move to DC and give it a shot. And it was everything I thought it could be and more. And I think having that ability to really see how things run and knowing that you have an impact, but also how things tie together. It's not just marketing BD, but you really have to work closely with your other C-suite to make something happen and how you can bring it together. And just also being part of those decisions. They're massive decisions, and seeing the partners grapple with them and knowing that they really rely on you to be their McKinsey team to really advise them on it. And so I really enjoyed that. And I think the team also, one of the best parts were those conversations with the team and knowing that I'm now in charge of helping them be successful. And so taking that move from being really a peer and knowing that I need to be their champion I need to find opportunities for them to succeed and be successful, and look back at the end of the year and say, yeah, that was a good year. I did get to do the things that I wanted to do and set out at the beginning. And so I really enjoyed that aspect of it, and just had an incredible team that I inherited. And so I thought that part of it was a lot of fun. And so no matter what the day was, I always knew that I had some good team around to keep the laughter there and keep things moving, and figure out what we needed to do to really drive forward the firm's strategy.
I want to just piggyback and kind of amplify saying yes to things. Like, and one of the questions when we were prepping, and sorry if that was your next question, was like about expectations, and there are things that your partners have in their mind. Ours was, when I stepped into the co-role, was a website. It needed to be done, but my chair was obsessed with the website, and that would have not been something I'd completely put on top of my priority list, but I knew it was important to her. So it's saying yes to things where you're like, you never know where they're gonna come from. You can't completely derail yourself from your plan of world domination, and knowing that that was important to her enabled me to kind of get that buy-in and that backing from her. But it's, yeah, you're kind of like, I think all three of us, it's just been in talking, obviously knowing Justin well and getting to know Kathryn over the past few years, it's that being in the right place at the right time, and it may not be exactly how, I scripted it in my Hallmark movie of becoming CMO at a law firm, and worked out pretty well for the three of us saying yes.
Absolutely.
You did steal my question.
I'm sorry.
You're
We can go to
jumping
the next
gun.
one.
No, because we have to hear from everybody.
Okay.
So, okay, the question was supposed to be expectations versus realities, right? How do you, everything kind of diverges from the path that you, because Robert Frost is two forks in the road, there's a whole thing, you have a plan, you take the wrong fork, I don't know. But expectations versus realities, right? What do you do when the road diverges, and how have you kind of dealt with that situation?
You make a website.
How did that work out for you?
I mean, it kind of looks kind of beautiful, but I'm never doing it again. One and done.
Justin, you want to go?
Find a way to align your values, because everyone will say, well, we're collaborative and collegial, but truly trying to understand how decisions get made, depending upon who you're working with. And I'm not just talking about the lawyers and the practice groups, but also other admin functions. That was something that took me time to understand. I never wanted to be a poli-sci major, but I've always worked in matrix environments. So what I learned real quick, you need to understand how to navigate the labyrinth quickly, and in this position, even more quickly, because sometimes the most senior person isn't the decision maker. You might get buy-in, but buy-in is an action. Action sometimes might be the person below the head, or the most tenured person, or the person with the biggest personality within that group. So it was something that I had to navigate and figure out. It was helpful that as part of the listening tour, I was doing that with not only talking to my peer chiefs, but also trying to understand their team members and ask questions like how decisions get made, so that if there is a disconnect, I can more nimbly and address that, knowing, okay, well, I started here, hit a brick wall, let me have these 2 or 3 side private conversations. And that's another thing that I kind of realized, there's so many meetings before the meeting that if you're not in that meeting, the likelihood of you really having a smooth group meeting is very, very small. So I realized I had to increase the number of private conversations that I was having, so that if it was a new idea, it was pretty much pressure tested before you had the big group meeting. That big group meeting was just to kind of showcase it to everyone in a group environment, but you already have gotten the predominant buy-in at that point in time.
I think you have to be flexible and know where you need to pivot. So I think one of the things in following the footsteps of such a great person was a lot of the team had gone on to the C-suite. So there were some pretty big holes that I was covering, and I realized some of the partners in that really needed someone. Like every day I was reminded, we don't have anyone we really need, and they had some big mandates from the CEO. And I knew that they were partners that wanted to be in control. And so it was really important for them that they felt in control of that process. And so your standard search was not going to work with them. It hadn't. And so reached out to the network, and I had some wonderful candidates that were put forward by some recruiters. And so there was a good match with that one, and I had someone else in my network in mind for the role. So I had 2 candidates that were really good. And I approached the partners, I said, just have a conversation, no strings attached. See if you gel with the person. If you don't, we'll pivot and do something else. And so not going through that formal process allowed them to feel like they had control, they could say no, they had to back out. Partner loved both candidates and then had a hard time choosing. So that really helped me, because when they were at a IMC meeting and were really raving about it, and the CEO was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that such and such was interested and would want to come. And so I think being able to find that fit had been empty for 24 months really helped. And so it got that team set with a leader that was in place. I got the two partners aligned, knowing that, okay, I do care about their resource. I found a great person, they got it. But they were feeling in control of the process too. So I think being flexible to adapt in that recruiting to know what made them comfortable, but at the end of the day, get the resource in that we needed to. I think also for me was being flexible on the situation as well. So I took on the role in Hong Kong, was dealing with an international move, so all the fun logistics of that. I had a teenager who was not happy about moving and still isn't to this day, would go back in a heartbeat. And just knowing like I had to do that stuff at the same time, but then also show up at work. And so being flexible in the approach and managing that, but knowing that there's people and resources. So I think for me, really, the CMO network has been a huge help.
Yes.
And one that's actually helped me both in my personal life and at the work. And I just think this network's incredible. You guys all have each other's backs. And so that to me has been the highlight of the role, is really coming into the heart of it. And it's incredible people in this room and outside of it. And that's been one of the great things about the role, is really tapping into that network.
Absolutely.
Do you guys have anything you want to add to that? No? That was beautiful. This feels really like heartwarming. Like, I'm so happy to be up here. Like, this is so beautiful. So we're close to time, and I want to leave a couple minutes at the end so that if anybody has any questions, you can ask them. But my favorite thing to ask people is, if you were going to give one piece of advice, or maybe there was like a story you want to tell about, I learned this thing, don't do what I did, what would it be? So, Kelly, why don't you start?
Oh, man.
sorry.
Justin, start.
Fine, I'll
Okay.
start. Mental health is a real thing.
Oh.
I would say I'm rather cool, calm, collective. It takes a lot to get my blood boiling. And usually talking about work is not therapeutic for me. It wasn't up until.
Should we stop?
Well, no. Talking about things that, make me mad at work is not therapeutic. Up until the last 6 months. And so I've caught myself at different points realizing that my stress levels were rising far higher than I've ever seen previously. And I recognized that I need to do something. Like, yes, I'm rather active, but I need to find a way to kind of balance things. Because if I don't show up for myself, I can't be supportive of my team. And I'm not going to be showing up the way that I need to show up. So for me, that meant, talking about my challenges more, exercising a lot more, so that I could feel more relaxed and, lower the bar in terms of stress levels and the like. So I would say, if you're looking to ascend to this role, or, that is something that you're thinking about, it is something that you can't ignore. And I tried to, but I realized, no, I have to get it out somehow. Because there's too many things that we deal with, from people management issues to just responding to the many things that are happening in the world, and you can't internalize all of that.
God, sorry, that just resonated so much with me. It's the resilience piece that is tough. And you have to give so much of yourself in this role. The one thing I will say in the nugget to leave is, be authentic in who you are. I think that's probably why I got this role. And as the firm had looked at their previous choices for leadership, and they weren't the right fit, and they had gotten to work with me in my woo style and how much I pour into the job, I think that's what helped me get the role. The other piece of kind of golden nugget I'd give to you all is communication. And that is absolutely huge, especially when you're trying to lead change. I send out a Friday update. Thank you, Mr. Luke Ferrandino, for that idea. I send it every single Friday. And it is announcing new team members, announcing new laterals, making sure that people have heard what I have said, because everybody takes information in differently. It is celebrating some big wins, or we just had somebody who is off having his first baby. And I also make sure that the team sees a bit of me. So my mom loves mulching Mother's Day. We just garden, and it's this big joke. Everybody's like, that's so cute. You're like, little weeding. And I'm like, we are hauling buckets of mulch, and it is landscaping. It is not gardening. But I included a picture this year, and that Friday update goes without fail. On Friday, I kick myself sometimes because it's like 8 o'clock. I'm like, haven't written the Friday update yet. But the team feels like they know me. They feel informed. And then I forward it to my chair, and I stopped for a little bit because I'm like, oh, Barbara doesn't want to see this. And she's like, so are you still sending the Friday updates? And she just absolutely loves it. And she's like, I love these. I love this. Keep them coming. So when you're in this role or stepping into this role, the communication and being authentic to who you are is really important.
I think everything that both of you guys have said, I think you got to put your oxygen mask on first. And that to me really was this network that really helped me when I needed someone to bounce ideas off of, or wanted some alternative thought, or also some tips for the new place that I was moving. I think that's important. But also staying authentic to yourself. I always tell my team, your family comes first, second, third. It's super important. And I actually had to make that choice this year, that my daughter needed to come first, and her repatriation was not smooth, and she had some challenges. And so I think authentically to lead is really important as a leader, but to be there for your team as well and help. If they see you not in your best shape, that's not going to be great for them. So you do have to look after your mental health, exercise, and also tap your network. And it's such a great network. So that's been the things that I learned in the role.
That's brilliant. I always had to learn how to ask for help, but I feel like you guys have already done that really well. You're like, yeah, I'm gonna pepper people about that. Gina, do you have a question?
I do have a question. So what I'm hearing from the three of you is we have the respect of the other C-suite leaders, our leadership. Our title is not in title only. And I do think there's a lot of people here, and I know a lot of clients that I've worked with over the years, where they get a C-level title, but they don't actually get the real buy-in. They're not at the table. They can't sign contracts with their strategic partners. So my question to you is, what advice do you have to them to continue to validate the important role that they play in the firms? Because I do know that there are people feeling that in the room.
My biggest thing has been to show numbers. So before, it was very anecdotal. So as I have stepped into this role, every 3 months, I make sure that I've got numbers, so number of pitches, number of impressions with our LinkedIn page, wherever I can get numbers, number of new people, where they came from, how many AMLA top 100 firms they came from, numbers, because those are the facts and you can't dispute the facts. So that's been one thing, just to kind of get that buy-in. I also too, and this is something where you kind of have to have your pep talk with yourself in the mirror and being like, I've got to show up and not let my voice quiver at the table, even though inside I'm like, ooh, I'm the new CMO, I'm the new C around. And also to find your supporters in the group. So Meredith Williams Range, and we brought a new CTO and a new CIO. Fortunately, we had all worked before, and they are very good at making sure that, we really should bring Kelly into this conversation. And they have been huge supporters of mine to make sure that I'm always involved in the conversation, because as somebody who moved up, as we all did within an organization, sometimes you just don't have that gravitas that you would have had if you had joined right away.
Yeah. Totally agree. Just to amplify, finding ways to provide value.
Yeah.
So data points, totally agree if you have that, but they don't solely need to be internally based. As Kathryn said, tapping into this network to find out, well, how are 3 other firms approaching the same issue? Yes, your chair could make those calls themselves, but they're probably not. So being able to provide that insight on whatever cadence you want to do that'll provide unique value, where they'll see you as being strategic, and that will move the needle. It may not move at the pace you want it to move, but if you can provide some sort of unique value, they'll keep asking you, or they'll keep listening to what your ideas are, because they're grounded in data, internally or externally focused.
I think Hogan Lovells, it's a really unique position, as you do have that seat at the table from day one with the other C-suite, and that expectation is that you're going to provide and advise. And so I think you're lucky to be in that position and have that front row seat and really see how you can make a difference. And part of the challenge is then taking that back to the team and helping them understand. So in having conversations, really teaching the team, how are they managing up to help you manage up? And it was really insightful. Someone was like, oh, I didn't know you see that type of things, or that they would want to know this information. So again, with feeding data, it's letting them know what kind of nuggets you want to hear, and in turn helping them shine. And so I think that's really important too, is having your team understand how everything fits together and what an important role they play, and that they're not just doing something day to day, but how do they tell their story to help you tell the whole story and keep the firm moving.
Any other questions? Ooh, two. Katie?
I don't know if I'm going to articulate this the way that I'm going to do it in my head, but each of you have come up through the ranks and are now, or have recently been managing pretty extensive teams. And I feel like so much of the conversations, whether it's today or recently, is about how to drive our marketing plans forward and our business goals, whether it's AI or new initiatives, and trying to find a way to maintain everything that we continue to add to our plate and follow through. But with huge teams, and the power distance is growing between the more junior people on your team, how are you staying connected to those folks to understand whether they are equipped with the resources that they need to execute, whether those resources be technical or professional development or just time?
I try to get out. I try to see people. It is tough. I just want to acknowledge, like, when I started, I mean, I had a team of maybe 10 that I was managing, and it's tough now because I don't get to see them anymore. Like, I knew everything about them, and was really truly in the trenches with them. I obviously have a great team and leadership team that I continue to build out, and having that feedback loop, trying to, when I can, just kind of drop in unexpectedly, reaching out to folks, not always being like to my senior manager of M&A. Sometimes I'll go to the person underneath, just CCing people like, hey, I'm going to give you a call just so I can have a touch point. After every single call that I have, how can I help you? I ask that every single call. A lot of times nobody takes me up on it. All my international offices, when you come to visit, that's how I can help them. And having them feel that they've been asked, I think resonates a lot.
Yeah, and I think it's super important. I completely agree with what she said. And what I try to do is weekly, I've said, I want to meet with 3 people who don't report directly to me, because I completely agree. Having a very strong senior leadership team, they'll let you know, but sometimes there's things that are just kind of being left out. You'll kind of hear the 50,000 foot level, but you may not fully appreciate what's really happening on the, on the ground floor, so to speak. So if I speak with 3 people per week on the junior ranks, in 6 weeks, I will have had all those conversations. And that way I'm consistently getting input and they feel heard, because that was one of the things that I realized, that if I'm not having these conversations, or if I'm only talking to one junior person, the 3 other people are looking, and how much weight even those simple conversations have, and how people feel good, better, and different about it. So it was part of the calculus of getting information, but also ensuring that everyone kind of feels heard, and that they're getting their one-on-one time with the boss, so to speak.
Isn't it weird when you're like, oh, wait, me? You want to talk to me? Okay, all right, I got this. Like,
Totally.
Yeah.
We polled the team to get some ideas with them, and then did some focus groups without the leadership team, and then had spokespeople feed in the key themes that came out of it. And a big thing was getting team members the opportunity to work with each other and feel like they had stretch projects. So we ended up creating 4 strategic projects that people could volunteer for and really have a chance to work across the team. And they were themes that had come out of those conversations. So I think that really helped empower the team and give them an opportunity to make a difference in an area that they were interested in. One of it was AI and tech. And just really that collaboration was important. And also, it didn't matter what level someone was, they could still see that they had that opportunity and impact and didn't feel that it was too hierarchical. So I think those focus groups and conversations, having them strategically along the way is a good check-in to get the pulse of the team, but also to get those ideas generated and make sure that everyone's still energized and excited about what's happening and driving things forward.
Guys, don't hate me, but we're out of time. Huge round of applause for you guys. Kath. Yeah.